Hello, my name is Stephen Malick, and this is assignment number 2 for EDLD 5302, Learning Manifesto. As an educator, the things I'm most passionate about is the concept of discovery. I'm fascinated when students discover a process and use it to further their own interests, their passions, and how these discoveries can impact other people and events. I'm passionate about information and how it can be shared, how it can be used, and how it is applied in such ways that involves other people, and how it can be applied for constructive uses. I've always been curious as to why people do the things they do, why they act a certain way, and why they think about things the way they do. And it's often a story of their personal experience and how these experiences have had a profound effect on the way people interpret their own experiences. It can be explained one way that when two people experience the same event or circumstance, yet have two diametrically opposed viewpoints on what happened or how it affected them. And it is because humanity is often made up of individuals, so these stories are ever changing, they're interpreted in different ways. And I think they will always be so as long as you have a human element involved. I think these things have made me passionate about journalism and advertising and media because these are concepts of the human experience, at least as how we record them now. Journalism is more direct, I think, the explanation of humanity and their experience, whereas advertising tends to cater more toward human desire and want, which tells a story of its own. And the media is a collective portrayal of all of these things, whether they're fact or fiction. We are certainly living in a time where we are not constrained so much by technology or time or even geography. It is a 24/7 global society, whether we like it or not. And there is a drumbeat always to stay relevant and current and constantly progress to the next thing. I think learning environments are no different, and I would propose that they are often forced, even more so, to stay a step ahead of everything else in order to prepare people for that. And sometimes we're successful in that, and sometimes we're not. These learning environments are often pressed upon by a variety of economic and political and social forces that are often entwined into the very fabric of the concept of education. While these environments often differ greatly in their mission and needs and resources, they often confront the same forces for many of the same reasons. The great issue for learning is, I think, an age-old issue. Humanity and the sense of identity has been part of the back and forth of education for multiple decades, and I don't think that has changed. In fact, I think technology especially has brought that into a larger discussion. We've all heard discussions about standardized test scores and school funding or charter schools. The challenges are still one and the same. What are we as a society trying to do with education? Test scores and annual yearly progress reports sometimes seek to compartmentalize human intellectual capacity into spreadsheets of data to pick apart without necessarily addressing social concerns or the ideas or needs or wants of human or individual capital. And that is still a challenge today. One concept I do think that is very timely is the concept of big data. All of this information that is being gathered, whether it's from social media networks or payment systems online, this social capital, this data capital, is one of the next big areas of discussion and development in the technology world. For example, this week Lamar University is hosting Alex Banayan, who is billed as the world's youngest venture capitalist. Mr. Banayan, along with other technological folks, have proposed the concept that big data will help contextualize information to help people, consumers, figure out what they need and desire before they need and desire it. Venture capital seeks to also develop the technologies, the businesses, the groupings in order to make this happen. And to some extent, they're right. I mean, there are a lot of great applications for big data. It's great my refrigerator can tell me that I need a gallon of milk. It would be even better if it would order that milk and have it delivered to my door. We don't really have to think about the context of that. That's something that most of us can agree with. Hey, that's great, provided we have money for it. The bigger question is with this big data as it is developed in further use, when do we start to acquiesce other parts of our decision making? What about the breathing machine that is connected to a terminally ill patient? Does big data determine life or death? Military applications, does big data determine bombing run or not? So these are larger questions I think ethicists are going to have to deal with, and to some extent I think with learning is too. These applications of big data are going to be with us for some time. Whether or not, I do think there are a lot of applications for innovative collaborations and across the globe, but it's happening in kind of a piecemeal fashion. And there are a lot of challenges that learning faces that are not easily confronted, whether it's some social or political changes or economic constraints, but larger issues like in war and poverty, etc., that may be taking place in one area and not another. So these are very large issues to be addressed with learning that there's not always a one size that fits all solution to it. In the United States, for example, it's a bit of more of a political mixed match of local and state and national desires and interests. Certainly the current political season has brought out discussions about things like tuition-free college education, the country's skyrocketing student loan debt situation. Other discussions have included the need for college education in general, or even the need for a public school system. Some candidates have even called on dissolving the Federal Department of Education, or have suggested that the Internet of Everything would suffice as a good learning body. So there are a lot of large and very important discussions about the challenges facing learning and education. For example, on local and state levels, there is discussion about school districts spending multi-millions of dollars on football stadiums that are only used 1 or 2 nights a week for a 10-week schedule during the year, whereas other classrooms in that same district still rely on dial-up internet service to deliver learning opportunities to students. So there are a lot of questions, both specific and general, that can be addressed. And again, I think it comes back around to the age-old issue is, by default, what are your social and educational priorities? To address these priorities in my own little area at Lamar University is the idea to incorporate digital learning to provide our students not just with more learning opportunities, but more options on how learning should take place itself, to give them not only ownership, but also to give them a voice. Students and educators have to be encouraged to take ownership of learning. It's not a one-sided thing. To best prepare our learners, they're going to have to make a choice in what they do and how they do it. I think that's important to offer that. For learning and achievement to take root, organizations have to provide that authentic learning experience so it can translate to learners' individual real-world experiences. Without that, I don't think we're going to have achievement. I don't think we're going to have the learning that we desire. Thank you.